Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is episode 41 on the Matt and John Make podcast here on YouTube. And I say YouTube because our first topic we want to get into, that news broke, I think, this past week, that one of the biggest podcasters there are out there is
arguably the biggest podcast out there.
yes, arguably is moving exclusively eventually by the end of the year to Spotify. And the person we're talking about is Joe Rogan. His podcast is moving to Spotify beginning of September. At that point, I believe it's September 1st, and at that point, it's
Yep.
still going to be on YouTube and Spotify. But
hmm
sometime by the end of the year, it's going to be exclusively on Spotify. I believe audio and video, still for
hmm
free, so you don't have to pay for Spotify. Uh,
Which is yeah, which is pretty groundbreaking too, Matt, because as you know, Spotify doesn't have any sort of video, so they're just doing this exclusively for Joe Rogan. So
yes, which could be a game changer down the road. And I believe you could
mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong. This was worth around 100 million.
I was watching Brendan Schaub's podcast, and they were saying like that what the numbers that they're actually higher. so
Huh.
so yeah, he was basically saying from the from the numbers that were out there, they're not exactly right, but still, regardless,
That's
this
a lot of money.
yeah, it's a power move. Per certain, like I was stunned to say the least, because I never really felt that what Joe would actually do this, but he got a boatload of cash,
Yeah.
which and like he controls pretty much everything. Nothing really changes with this thing, which is really encouraging.
It's pretty much just Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good move on both sides because for Rogan, you get all the money,
Yeah.
you you retain your rights and creative of your own show, and Spotify knows that Rogan gets a lot of eyes on his podcast, a lot of listens, and then
Mm-hmm.
if you can listen for free, and you if you don't have Spotify yet, like both of us don't,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I do, and I don't because mainly because I don't want another subscription. Even though
Yeah.
you can use it for free, but I think there's like ads
Other
and
good
stuff.
things though. Yeah, so basically, if you don't subscribe with Spotify's premium package, you will still be able to see Rogan's full podcast. It's going to have ads in it. So unless you really get annoyed with ads, like I really don't think that it's all
I
that
mean,
big of a deal to me.
I'm, I'm used to YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm used to watching stuff on Hulu, and even with NBC's new streaming service, Peacock, which if side note, if you are an Xfinity X1 customer, which we are Comcast, if you have the
I
TV,
am, yes, yep,
and
yep.
I think you can get it for free for at least now early. I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be free for everybody who has it going forward, but I know
Mhm.
it's coming out in July for like $4.99 or whatever. But anyways,
Yeah.
so like that, um, watching that has ads in it, um,
Mhm.
so that's okay for free. Like I'm not that like I wouldn't be that upset with ads. I know people just want the content and move on, but
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
I mean, our, all our lives we had ads. When we had just TV,
Mhm.
we
Hell, like
had
hell, like
there's commercials.
hell, like I watch all of Van Rogan's podcast through YouTube. So and there's ads everywhere with that thing. So it's
Yeah.
like it's not really changing all too much.
And that's a sacrifice to make to not pay for anything, and I'm okay.
No.
And then most of the ads, anyways, if uh, the commercial breaks, if you will, they're about like maybe minimum like 15 seconds to 30, at maximum maybe
Mm-hmm.
I don't know 90 seconds. So like less than
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes. I think
Right.
all the time we sit there watching and
Mm-hmm.
people binge watch shows all day. I think
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes per well minute and a half, maybe a couple times a thing, maybe 5 minutes of can 5 minutes of commercials is okay.
Yeah.
So if that means I can listen to it for free, um, that's fine
Yeah.
by me.
Yeah. It's kind of where I'm at too, because as you said, man, like we're already subscribed to enough stuff as is. Because I know for me, I obviously have Disney Plus, ESPN, and the Hulu bundle,
Yeah.
WWE Network.
Yep.
I'm
I've got
I'm like a
Amazon Prime.
Netflix. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I use Netflix through my mom. She has it, so
Yeah.
she
Mm-hmm.
paid for it because she
Mm-hmm.
watches, I guess, some stuff. So I just have an account through her. Um, I have the Disney Plus bundle,
Yeah.
Prime, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? I mean, where's my oh, yeah, it's back there. Other various other stuff, maybe just not streaming. So, yeah. And I'm still archaic in the sense for music that if I like a
Mm-hmm.
song, I'll go on my phone to the Google Play Store and I will buy it individually like a boomer.
Yeah,
Because
I'm pretty cheap when it comes to that. There.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of songs I have bought. Like I don't $1.29. I'm okay with it, but and anybody listening, like just pay blah 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 for a month and you can get everything you want. But like
Mm-hmm.
I'm weird with his music. I like so many different things that I don't tie down the one. I don't know. It's hard to think. But I got Sirius XM too in the car, so I can
Yeah,
listen to that too.
yeah. I finally unsubscribed to that. It was just like I was paying so much money for that.
So
Um,
I have that in the car, and that's pretty much all I listen to in the car. And
yeah,
with that, I can get obviously music. I have the favorite in my car. If I want to change it up, I got like the comedy channel. If I want to just enjoy a good laugh, if I'm going somewhere, if I don't want to listen to music, I got that,
right.
um, and other stuff. So it
Mm-hmm.
it it works, and that's what 25 bucks
Yep. I
ish.
mean, yeah.
So I don't need Spotify, but I might cave in temptation and maybe, but I think I'll live with it.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
for me, I would really need actual incentive to actually do that.
Right, I might,
And
but I'm trying not to.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. Before this happened, Spotify wasn't really deep into podcasting, were they?
Um,
Like it was just strictly on music, right?
I think for the most part, I let me look this up because
Mm-hmm.
as somebody who doesn't use
Mm-hmm.
it, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I think they might have,
but
um, but there was more
oh wait,
the Google Music,
mm,
like a store like Google Music, like Amazon, Apple, music stuff. Let me look this up.
oh and by the way, did you see did
SoundCloud and
yeah, yeah.
all that stuff.
By the way, did you did you see Spotify's um did you see Spotify's stock price once they announced
No, I did not
um
see that.
Rogan? Yeah, like supposedly it jumped from, I think it was $160 a share to $189 a share when they announced that. So,
I
and
think they might. You know what? They might have.
mm,
You know what? They do have. Yeah, I feel stupid. They do have. I think podcasts before.
okay, okay, but yeah, like as far as a stock price goes, I I was watching a video about this, and they were talking about 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 Spotify putting down a lot of cash to bring them in, and supposedly like just like based on the stock price and everything, that they were basically only paying Rogan a like an equivalent of like $5 million, just like based on their
I
stock exchange, which I can't really explain. So, but that was kind of what they were explaining, is like, you know, as far as just like how huge of a freaking business move that this was for
I
them.
think I could be wrong, and I'm as as we're talking right now, I'm researching more and looking
Mm-hmm.
that I think maybe Spotify was just a platform
Mm-hmm.
for people to like upload podcasts. I'm not sure if Spotify is paid for.
So so basically, Rogan is essentially the first guy then.
Or if not that, or at least right now, Spotify exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of
Well,
people put their shows on
mm-hmm.
like any
Right, right, right.
different places, so
Yeah,
everybody has
they'll
access to him. So, but
they'll just
now
yeah,
he's gonna be, it's just him.
it's just
Um,
him. Which I mean, like they're I mean, like just for Spotify, it's a huge move, because just think of just how many downloads and just consistent traffic that they're going to get, because I mean, like there's probably maybe two or three bigger podcasts in the world, and honestly that's probably even a stretch, just like I mean and for YouTube, you gotta wonder um how mad or how like or how pissed or that they are, just because I believe with him he was like one or two most or basically number one or two podcast on the platform there.
yeah,
So to lose that, it's got to be really devastating for them.
yeah, and I think it says here, this is on the Verge.com article here, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
probably have it linked. That I think Spotify bought two companies, podcasting companies, um,
Yeah, I did hear
to
about that too.
oh no, and then bought other shows. I guess
Mm-hmm.
The Ringer and Bill Simmons's
Yep.
flagship
Yeah.
show. So
Yeah.
okay, I am wrong. He's not the first
Difference is
one,
here though.
but
Yeah.
it's more
Ooh.
exclusive.
Licensing. Yeah, like basically if Spotify is licensing Rogan's podcast, which is just basically taking all of his library and obviously for future episodes are going to be strictly there. So I do wonder if they're going to be able to actually live stream stuff again, because if you recall, basically Rogan stopped that. I think it was like not too much longer after the Alex Jones episode, where he just basically just start them where he just started taping them with his podcast rather than going live. So I'm hoping with his fight companions, which by the way are tremendous. Those guys are freaking crazy, as you know, Matt. Eddie Bravo.
Yes.
He's a very interesting man, you could say, right?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. It's entertaining. Yeah. I'm trying to read this and listen at the same time, so I don't know if he's the first to be exclusive of Spotify. But the big
I want to
thing,
say yes. Yeah.
because I don't know if it is, because if they bought other shows, and wouldn't they still
Mhm.
be exclusive to Spotify? Well, regardless, the thing is that since Rogan that show is so big,
Yeah.
you get you get people to come in and reading here.
Mhm.
You get the data from there, and then you can sell. Let's say I don't know what the typical view. I don't know. It's 500, whatever, 500,000. I don't know if that's right, but you get
Mhm.
all that money, then Spotify can get more bigger ads, and then
Yep.
they make money. He makes
Mhm.
money, and right
It,
now
it's
it's just a
I mean
big thing.
it's going to be a giant success for Spotify, and more importantly, I mean, like this opens the door for content creators pretty much ever, because now Joe has completely just reset that whole entire market there. So
Yep.
so pretty much anyone who is anywhere is going to be looking for a bigger payday. So whether they're exclusively on say like YouTube or Spotify or on like Stitcher or like iTunes or whatever, like they're going this is going to lead to more things happening. So I mean, like it's going to be very interesting to see. But man, my first reaction of when I heard this was like, man, he must be getting paid a lot of money to just air it just exclusively on Spotify, because man, as you know, he was on like iTunes, YouTube, I must say he was probably on on Stitcher, but I don't believe that he was uploading his stuff to Spotify. I I forget why he said why he wasn't doing that, but like but now I mean obviously he's getting a giant payday here, but I mean like it's going to be very interested, and we'll see how this plays out. Again, he's going to start to put his past episodes over onto Spotify on September 1st, and then by the end of of the year, he didn't say specifically when, but he's going to be start to do new episodes exclusively on that brand there. So a very exciting time when it comes to that there. All right, so we're going to move on here to some wrestling talk here, and more specifically, with the season finale of the Dark Side of the Ring. Matt, I'll let you go first on this here. What were your initial thoughts, and what did you walk away learning from this
Um,
documentary?
this was the most anticipated one of them all. I think the highest viewed one.
It was three
Um,
hundred and 49,000
yes.
um,
Um, this uh, it was a good, at least for me. I mean, everybody is know the story of what happened, but this obviously went more in detailed and got at least um, Owen's wife side of the story,
Martha.
and
Yeah,
more
yeah.
Martha, yeah, and more reactions for people who were there, more candid, and the not the cool thing, but the interesting thing was actually seeing. I don't think these have been released. Actually, seeing the police photos of the arena and the
Mm-hmm.
catwalk, and it just gives you some perspective of
I
how
mean, like, yeah.
far up in the air he actually did fall. Um, uh,
I mean,
but Go ahead.
For me, like it was pretty hard for me to try and sit through that. It's like to me, it's the most tragic, it's the most saddest dark side story, even more so even like more so with Benoit, because 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 with Owen, he didn't die on his own personal demons or concussions or whatever. He just died over something incredibly stupid that they were doing with a stupid gimmick and that they were trying to spoof with them Sting from WCW. So it's just and like when I saw, I mean, when you see Jim Cornette crying about this, that's
Yeah.
like I mean, like what you never see. And it's just seeing with Owen's family walking on that freaking catwalk and they're looking down to how far that they're that that Owen fell. It's just it's really hard to take in. And after the show ended, I was just like I was pretty starstruck at just how hard that actually hit me, even though I was just getting into wrestling at that point. Like I was like I just started in like 98 and 99 and I didn't really understand everything about it just because I was only like 8 or like 9 years old at the time, and I hadn't lived throughout his whole entire career. But now, after seeing that, your eyes are really open. And Matt, I'll ask you this: how did you feel how like a Martha basically not allowing WWE to basically profit off of Owen's name? I'm talking uh, about like t-shirts the with the WWE Hall of Fame, etc. Like, what was your whole take
I think
on
I
that there?
think it's totally justified and very understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Something you truly believe in, whether or not you believe um, WWE was in the wrong here or whatever. But she believes, and they're probably in the most likely in the wrong. Um, not not necessarily for the gimmick, but more so in how the company who rigged them and that whole
Yeah.
thing worked. Um, but it it is somewhat of a part of you mean generalized everybody is
Mm-hmm.
probably would like to see Owen deservedly be in the WWE Hall of Fame because or any Hall of Fame because he deserves it. But at the same time, um, it's really not our business or our call, because she believes it. If obviously she strongly that WWE had a hand in Owen's untimely death, um, and
Yeah.
it probably in her eyes unethical for them to be like prop up Owen Hart and then
Mm-hmm.
some negligence cost him his life. So it's totally understandable. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm not mad as a like it's to me it's not like a huge deal that he's not in given the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances because if Benoit, I'm not comparing the two. If Benoit shouldn't be in because of what he did, then and he should be in based on wrestling.
Yeah.
Owen can not be in based on what his wife and circumstances around his death. So I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
I know for me, for the longest time, I always looked at like Martha. It's just this cold hearted person who basically just and not want Owens fans to have some way of honoring him in some way, form, or fashion, and that was the thing that always set me off, and I always And I was always really angry at her for that. But over the past few years, like I just have grown to understand better of about like how she feels, how her family feels with her kids. And I just realized, that is not our decision to make.
Nope.
And like she's completely justified in doing that. Like, because I mean, and especially too, when you see just the court battle that went on with WWE and her and from her account as well. Supposedly, even with the Hart feeling, we're we're going against her. Um, we're going against her in court, and basically, she even asked them, if you're going, if if you're not going to support me, do not be against me. Crap.
Well,
I
what?
had to sneeze there
Oh, sneeze.
and just but but and like you just saw just how personal that whole thing got. Helen Vince sued Martha personally. So it just, and when you see Vince's 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 press conference back in '99, and like his whole justification of continuing the show after Owen fell, which by the way, I have no idea why that show kept on going. I mean, like you should definitely be very angry at the company, but how the police did not step in and say, "Hey, this show is over. This is a freaking crime scene now." Like it's
Yeah, I
like
don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that doesn't
that
make any sense.
that made no sense. So I put more blame on the police department there more than with
I
Vince, even though he was really stupid and really heartless for continuing that show.
I yeah. The regardless of what the police were doing, um, I don't. They should never have continued. I mean,
No,
I think I think if you're paying money for a ticket, you're there, and they say whatever due to circumstances of if they announced it in the crowd. Did they announce? I don't even know if they announced it to the crowd. I don't think they did because whatever you announced they due to so and so blah blah blah. Understandably, we need to cancel the show, and you can get well back then if somehow we can give you your money back
right,
somehow take the loss and go. And same thing with pay-per-view. Call your cable provider and you can get your I don't know how
yeah,
much pay-per-view was back then, but you get your money back. And I think 99.9% of people would understand, hopefully, if not 100. Um, um, that was not the only thing I can compare it to um, that was close was when the King had a heart attack on air
mm-hmm.
and they kind of took him off.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with that, it wasn't almost not in the ring or nobody died yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they were updating us throughout the air. Um, that the King. This is gonna sound just. I don't want this to sound gruesome, but like that, I don't think was enough to like cancel like stop the show because
Well,
in
if
a
you
way,
recall too, they cannot do a single second more of commentary that night.
right?
If
That's
memory
right.
serves.
That was, I think that was still in the midst of Cole doing that heel turn run, where he was at
Yeah.
heel, and then
Hmm.
that effectively stopped it because, and I give Cole credit. Everybody crapped on him, but um, how he handled that was pretty like just. I mean, he kept it together, and everybody was praising him. Um, but yeah, there was no commentary, and that was, I think, a good decision, at least for Cole, because if somebody, a, a co-worker, a friend, obviously is going through something traumatic, like a heart attack, how you're going to keep, there's no way, like, I don't care who you are, there's no way you're not thinking of that while trying to call a match and have people, like, talk in your ear and whatnot. So, I mean, at the very least, that was good because nobody knew what was going to happen or if he was
Well,
making it.
and
But when you get back to Owen, obviously, I think it was something like that where it was part of the show that big. I think you can't go on, especially throwing people out in the ring wrestling where he fell and I think what Martha said there was pictures of the where he fell that the boards actually broke and there was a little indent in the ring. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's like I
Well, and to if you recall on the doc too, Matt, basically with Jerry and Jr. They got zero update, and basically Kevin Dunn told them, and they had a whole 10 seconds to basically update everyone.
yeah the same
Which could you imagine being in that position
yeah
and
no.
basically saying, hey, Owen's dead. Like, what?
Well,
Like,
it was like I think that part was we need an update to tell people, and you're on in 10, 9, and there was no updates, and pretty much he just pretty much said the same thing, and then later I think later on it was like, hey, Owen's dead, and then you have to say it, and
right, right.
like I wouldn't want to be that person, Jr. or the King, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't wouldn't even know what to do.
Right. Yeah, it's just like just like every single second of that episode that was just so depressing, was just so somber, just so sad. Like it's like it was really hard for me to sit through, and I know for a few friends of mine, like they said, like I had to stop halfway through. Just
It
it just it was just very very difficult
that
for a lot of fans to sit through that.
it wasn't as bad for me. Um,
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched it fine, and by fine, I wasn't like I'm getting emotional. Like, but I felt. I mean, I honestly felt it, but
Yeah,
I
I did
kind
too.
of
Yeah.
took it as a show and just took in the information and it just let Martha basically tell her side of the story and just
Right.
get more information that obviously I didn't know. Uh, Besides basically just the basic what we've heard before. So
Yeah.
I think it was a
Yeah.
good way to get their side of the story out and more details. Um, the only side we've not heard,
It's
obviously,
WWE side.
is
Yeah.
the WWE side, and we'll probably never hear that, at least as long as Vince has anything to do about it. Because if you're Vince, and I think Martha did say that, like he took in a conversation phone call with her that he did take blame.
Mm-hmm.
But um, like I'm I'm positive that because there's no way McMahon does not feel like bad or didn't feel bad or just
Yeah.
felt disgusted about it. Um, and oh God bless you. And
Ooh,
I think
there
that
it is.
the suing back and I think that breach of contract.
Mhm.
Jim Cornette on his podcast had more to say about that. That
Mm-hmm.
It was probably more his lawyers finding like
Mm-hmm.
loopholes
Yeah.
to countersue, which and stuff like that. I mean, it's not surprising that somebody will countersue back. Like it's not
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
it's just Vince just being, oh, it's Vince McMahon. He's even evil person. Like if
Yeah.
somebody's suing you, you're not going to like sit back and like really take it. Like you're trying to defend yourself, and then if you can, it's legal stuff that unfortunately exists. But I like there's no way he didn't feel bad. It's not like, well, it sucks. He died. Let's move on. Like, there's no way. Like, nobody,
Mm-hmm.
if anybody out there truly believes that McMahon or whatever is not
No,
sorry,
he's just pretty good in hiding his emotions.
because he's that character. He keeps stuff close to the vest,
mm-hmm.
especially like
Always says.
and there's nothing wrong with that because he's a businessman, so he has that mindset, and he has that unique mindset on McMahon, so it's okay. But on the other side of that coin is you can argue about the stunt all day. Was it right? Was it wrong? Obviously, in this hindsight, it was wrong. Um, they should have. If it's true, they did the cost cutting measure and the different hook to get that quick release.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's stupid and that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really tragic. I could tell you for me personally, I'm not going to be watching that over again.
Yeah,
Just
I haven't watched any of them over.
yeah, yeah, I like with that one specifically, just really hard for me to do that. But I'm hoping above anything else that this brought some closure to all parties involved to some point. So yeah, but of going from one documentary to another, we had the finale of the Chicago Bulls Last Dance episodes 9 and 10. Those aired on Sunday, and this was obviously the end of the very popular docu series, which has been chronicling basically Michael Jordan's Bulls, basically from their inception to the very end. Um, and from episodes 9 and 10, it was just basically just focusing on the '98 season, um, just like how going through the Eastern Conference Finals, and then obviously with the NBA Finals, they really dove into just how intense things were between the Indiana Pacers and the Chicago Bulls, Reggie Miller versus Michael Jordan. Um, like and they time skipped, I think, to like '92 or '93 when Reggie first got into the NBA, and when he first went up against MJ, and he like from that first game that he played him, and after MJ just went insane in the second half, and basically Reggie had a pretty crappy second half. He dubbed him the name he dubbed him the name Black Jesus after that on the basketball court. So you could just tell like just a certain amount of fear that MJ even back then just put into guys. Like it's just he was
Yeah.
just a really hard guy to go against. And we also found out from the infamous flu game that he was actually it was actually food poisoning.
The
That
the pizza people
yeah, from the
allegedly.
crazy pizza, yeah, from the crazy pizza people, allegedly in Utah. We also got some really good insight into Steve Kerr, because for me, Matt, I had no idea about his father,
Oh yeah,
and
me either.
him dying just that tragically. Um, as you said, like he was a professor, I believe, at UCLA. I believe, and like he was
Yeah,
doing,
originally, yeah.
and then he was over. Where was he over when he died?
Oh, Jesus. Was it
It's in the Middle East, right?
Lebanon? Lebanon? I want to say
Yeah, yeah,
Lebanon.
somewhere. Yeah, okay, yes, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
But supposedly, supposedly, he was shot in the head while he was making a phone call back over
Was it?
to the states.
Was it? When he was coming out of an elevator,
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that. But he was just shot in the head. It was a pretty big international incident to him from what they said here, and it just and like they like were focusing on how like Steve Kerr and and like MJ never really talked up about their dads or anything, even though that's probably something that they could have them bonded over, but it would just like it would obviously be pretty hard to talk about that, but they like really talked about basically how with them Steve and like Michael, how their relationship just continuously evolved oh, over time to the point where Steve earned MJ's respect, because man, especially in that final season, he hit a ton of really big shots
Yeah.
for that team. Like it just seemed like whenever they really needed a big time basket, he always got a big time basket there, and I'm sure just like that just boosted that just boosted Michael's confidence in Steve Kerr, because that could not be understated. And another thing that I felt was pretty touching too, Matt, was MJ's relationship with his security guards, more specifically Gus Led, who was basically there from the very beginning, who was essentially a father figure to him, especially when MJ's father died tragically. Like he would like call Gus in the middle of the night, even just to talk to him. So like we saw more of the human side of Michael, definitely with these last few episodes, and just how hard that he was struggling with the pressure and everything. But even going through when they were going through the playoff series, it was just funny. Like just the trash talk that was happening, it was hilarious. But Matt, probably the most funniest thing of all though was when Dennis Rodman, after Game 3 in the finals, goes to WCW Nitro with the NWO. And in case you kids did not forget, NWO is for life. So like it was just funny because he got so much criticism on Robin for basically just skipping out on practice and just, hell, hey, let's go down to WCW Nitro and and, and hang out with the NWO
And the
as
interesting thing is, I saw Mark Madison on Twitter, is
yeah.
that apparently uh, they showed that clip of Marlone and
Yeah.
Rodman getting that tussle, and then apparently that was staged and planned by WCW. I don't know, Bischoff, to get interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which
which I believe, I don't doubt that. So,
mm-hmm.
WCW had a hand in the finals, which is hilarious.
Yeah, man.
And see, that's how I missed. I came late to the wrestling boom there, so this was before I became a fan. I never knew this was during the finals. At least
Yeah.
unless unless I forgot about it. I really didn't know. I knew he was there, obviously, but I didn't know it was during the finals, which makes it
Yeah,
even all the better.
it was freaking hilarious. Which, like, which is why it was such a huge mainstream story at the time. But with him, Dennis, he was just such a freaking rebel man who just essentially did what you want. But obviously with episode 10, they really chronicled the NBA finals there. And to just like you could just tell with the Bulls, they were essentially on their final legs. Scottie Pippen was really banged up. Like he had a really bad back injury in Game 6 to where he was hobbling up and down the floor there. But they did it, man. Michael Jordan hits that insane game clinching shot, Game 6, which has been played over and over again for. I mean, like I probably have seen that about 10 million times, but it was just incredible. And then obviously they chronicled the of basically of the Bulls splitting up. But something I didn't know that supposedly that the owner was going to go over Jerry Krause's head and bring everyone back. But the problem was from a finance standpoint,
Right.
um, from what he said that he couldn't bring everyone back. Which if you ask MJ that, he says it's
He gives that classic laugh.
yeah, he just finds that um really hysterical because he was always under the impression, hey, we will all sign
1 year.
one-year deals and try to get it again, which would have been interesting because in the 99 season that was a strike shortened season, which which honestly might have played in the Bulls' hands just because shorter games, less tear on the body as for that season. But what actually ended up happening, Scotty, I believe he got traded. Dennis Rodman, he got released. Steve Kerr, I believe he got traded. Obviously, MJ retired. Um, Phil Phil stepped down or just didn't or just decide not to resign. He would eventually become the head coach of the of the LA Lakers in '99, I believe. So yeah, and that was essentially it. And I would say this was definitely ESPN's best documentary ever. Just the behind the scenes looks, just how it was, just all of the interviews that they got was just really interesting and quite honestly something that hadn't really been done before. So yeah, Matt, any final thoughts or final takeaways from the doc there?
It's probably one of the best documentaries, sports documentaries I've seen. At the very least, what ESPN has produced. Um, so that was fun to watch. I know we got the and probably transition into this. We got the Last Ride, the Undertaker one, which is another fantastic one. Probably
Which
the
is
best.
very similar style wise
Yeah,
to the Last Dance.
right, which is great. And then and I know to a lesser extent we have a Tiger Woods documentary on this Sunday coming up, I believe, on the Golf Channel, talking about Tiger.
Oh, I'm not sure.
So I'm interested in watching that.
Supposedly ESPN is doing, which is coming in 2021, a like 9-part series on Tom Brady.
I
Which is
think I did
coming
see
in.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so supposedly that's happening. I think that we're gonna be seeing that. We're probably are definitely are gonna be seeing something on Kobe Bryant, which I believe he basically let people behind the scenes for his final season because supposedly when MJ announced in 2016 that he was essentially going to be doing a documentary on this, Kobe at the time was like, hey, I'm going to also do something. So we're probably are going to be getting that at some point, and man, that's going to be hard to sit there because Kobe was one of the more recognizable athletes in in my in my generation because pretty much when I got into sports, which was in '98 or '99, MJ was essentially out. Um, when I started getting into that, but one of the basketball players who I gravitated towards too was Shaq and Kobe. So it's like that's going to be hard for a lot of people, for sure. But
Yep.
um, I'm all for about these sports documentaries. So keep them coming, keep them coming. But we're going to stick with the documentary talk, Matt, and we're going to be discussing episode 2 of The Last Ride, which also premiered on Sunday. Matt, what were your thoughts on episode 2 with this thing here?
Like episode 1, this was fantastic. Um, I like the more behind the scenes of like how of his injuries and coming back. I think that's interesting. And I like that episode was apropos, whatever the phrase is, the word, redemption. Because you see him watching his match with um, Roman, and he obviously didn't like it. Um, that killed him because he couldn't do that like reverse into the
Oh, he
tombstone.
could barely even freaking walk with
Yeah,
that match. He just looked slow, overweight, just hurt. And basically, he said, his hip was bothering that bad. He was living in pain essentially every day for like the last 10 years or so. And he said that, he really hadn't really felt well since WrestleMania 25, against Sean, which was essentially the very last time where he felt really healthy. So that was interesting to see. It was just like, man, and I know for me and you, when we saw that, I mean, I thought for sure that was it for him because he just looked lost and defeated, was just ready to basically set off into the sunset. But when you see him watching that match, you could just see he was like, I can't go out on that note. So it was just and in when they were going behind the scenes with his surgery, and he's telling the doctor or the nurse there how many
yeah,
surgeries that he's had. It was pretty funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was funny. Where do you start? But uh, but after he had that surgery, uh, he said he felt better, and he kind
Mm-hmm.
of got that inkling.
Itch.
He met with Vince,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he got a ring, and he worked out, and he said it was, you can tell he can move. He felt way better than he did. Um, it wasn't peak Undertaker, but it was damn sure better than what
Yeah.
we saw
Yeah.
with Roman Reigns. And he trained, and he agreed to have that match, albeit a short one, with Cena
Yeah.
at in New Orleans. And that gives me more perspective now, knowing this, because that match was short and it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
disappointing. But now, knowing what he went through, it makes sense that you don't. I'm presuming they never said it, that at least with Undertaker just coming back from surgery, give him 5 minutes, see what he can do. You don't want to kill him. Go 20 minutes in first match back. They probably wanted to ease him in, which makes total sense. I mean, he just came back. So now knowing that, it's understandable. Get 5 minutes, get him back in Mania, and
Yeah, that was like sort of a like a welcome back
welcome back.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you want to see what he can do, and you don't want to overexpose him in case he can't go as much as he can. And the good thing, and what Mania was that? That was
34.
34. Then we were at 35. He wasn't there.
No.
And then obviously
With the AJ match,
which last with this year, which was a good way to get him going without really.
Probably the best that he's looked since WrestleMania 28.
And the funny thing
or
was
29 maybe.
The funny thing was that they had the clip of him watching AJ when I think he was at the Rumble.
Yep.
And saying he reminded him like Sean, and that's somebody he wanted to work with, and look what's happening now. He's working with them, and presumably they're there's hinting of a return match.
I mean, they've been hinting at that, so I'm wondering if they're planning on doing that at SummerSlam.
Maybe, but I mean, if anybody who's going to get in the ring with him, I think AJ's the best bet, obviously, and Undertaker. Nothing I can say means anything, but if Undertaker believes in AJ, then you know what, I'm going to believe him. He trusts AJ, and comparing him to Sean, and I think that's
honestly a lot of people have done so because just from an athletic and just an in-ring standpoint, he's this generation's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. And if anybody can get one last good match out of from out of Taker, if I can finish that sentence, and if that could be his I don't know if it's going to be his last match per se, because he signed that.
I hope so.
Who knows?
15-year deal.
15 year. Apparently it's not a Legends contract, so who knows? He's not going to wrestle for all 15 years, obviously.
He signed a Bobby Bonilla deal. Okay.
Yes, but if that is his last match, it's SummerSlam. Who knows? I don't know. We said that how many times, and he's back. But if he believes in AJ to be the last one to retire him, then you know what, so be it. Nobody should. After seeing this, nobody should be upset. If it's a great match, or if it's a decent match that we're talking about and go, that was good, then he's gonna be happy with it, and it's up to him. If he's done, who the hell do we have any room to say when he should be done? But
I tell you though, another thing that was really evident on here was like Vince's relationship with Taker. Like you could just tell. Like I don't think that there's really another person, probably ever that Vince has that type of a relationship with. You could just tell like just how much love and just respect that he has had. I mean, because to me, it's Vince's greatest creation. It's the Undertaker character. It's stood the test of time. It's the most story character has been able to be sustainable for 3+ decades, which is saying something. And like how he couldn't even speak on how he actually felt about him. That's how it was with him.
And like any relationship anybody's had, like that the loyalty that Taker showed with Vince not going to WCW and pretty much just doing what he was told to do and just doing it and performing well, making Vince money. That like the business side and just being a like stand up guy with Vince in that personal relationship. That's like no different than in real life. Well, obviously that's real life, but with us laymen, if you will, if anybody like, if you just have an acquaintance, you don't have that rapport with them, so you're not going to be that emotional if anybody talks about them. You can just say, you know, basic stuff like, oh yeah, they're good peers and yeah, blah blah blah. But if you have a really a good a good friend or even a significant other or what have you, then you get more emotional and you have that trust with each other. It builds up, and it's no different here with Vince and Taker. And people, I've always bashed Vince that he's cold hearted. I think if you really get to know him,
which he is. Like, let's not, dispute that. But
with business, yes.
yeah.
But if you get, I mean, but everybody thinks like he's like that for everything. Like, and probably that business side of him takes over. I mean, he's businessman, is a big businessman, very successful, regardless of what you think about what he's done. But if you have that personal connection, and if you show loyalty to him, he'll show it back to you. And perfect example right here in this episode. And what I'm interested to see for next week, and they teased it, is the Saudi match between him and Kane and DX.
Which between that and his match against Goldberg, I don't know which one was worse. I mean, I guess
the Saudi match.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you would probably say with the tag match, just because at least with the Goldberg match, it was pretty quick. Whereas I believe with this tag match, they got like 25 minutes, which who the hell thought that was a great idea?
It is probably, they looked and went, you have Triple H, you have Shawn, you have Taker and Kane.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Big type up match. You're not going to give them 5. Give them 25, and it just ended up, well, obviously not 5, but it ended up probably not working. Like on paper, it's one of those things. On paper, it should be decent, and you get out there and it's just like, oh crap. And then you can tell that all of them are just like, oh well, this sucked.
Yeah,
and that probably just got Undertaker more passionate to get better. It's like, oh, I'm not ending on that. Goldberg was after that, I believe. Correct?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna end on that. So like, and I don't think Taker he's mad. He's probably upset, but not mad at Goldberg, because I think in episode 1 they backstage. I mean, times have changed. They embraced. There's a respect there, but
he was probably
just mad at the whole thing.
Upset
at the whole thing, not particularly Goldberg. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
For sure, and some other things I wanted to discuss before we close this week's podcast. We would like to send our thoughts and prayers out to both Shad Gaspard's Shad Gaspard's family, who was a former tag team wrestler, and I believe he was also a tag team champion with JTG of Crime Time, who tragically passed away after basically got caught in a riptide, which took his son, and basically he sacrificed himself in order for his son to be saved. He was taken away and went missing, but they did find Shad's body. I believe it was
Yesterday.
yesterday.
Yeah, I want to say yesterday.
On like a Wednesday. So I'm glad that at least with the family they have some closure with that. So it's not gonna be something floating
You,
around.
yeah, you know what I saw today, a little bit ago, which kind of hit me hard in a way. Which somebody showed the clip of side by side clip of uh, him and MVP. I think at a bar watching Kofi win the title,
Yeah.
and how emotional that was. And that was just like last year, and you just think like
Yeah.
he sees this, and thank God he sees this, an African American champion in WWE, them getting emotional, and you just think, crap, like a year from now, like he's gone, he's gone. It just, you see that, it's just crap. It just sucks.
Yep. It's really unfortunate to say the least, but I'm glad that the family acts just it's not something floating around, and
Yeah.
you're just seeing all of the love from his contemporaries to his friends and family. He was like, and like Jr. really put him over as like one of the most nicest people he ever worked with, and even to with Roman, who really put him over when he was in FCW, and when he talked about with Shad, he was like really mad at the time, and still being down there, but he was gracious enough to help him out as he was coming along. So
Yeah. And I wish, I mean, side note, I wish, I mean, he was a really a good athletic big man. I wish he had, I mean, just he had a bigger push in the WWE as a single star. That it didn't work out. I mean, it's significant now, obviously. I don't want to change the topic, but I always liked him back in the late 2000s, around 08, 09. He was always entertaining, I guess, good performer. Um, I don't think ever since then, like you just touched on, I don't think it was a bad thing anybody said about him. It sounded like just a good guy to be around, and unfortunate that this happened. But what's it say about him that he's uh, sacrificed himself for his son? Which
it's
I mean,
it's an honorable thing. It's a very honorable way to go out. Save your family, and that's what he did. So as we said, thoughts and prayers to him and his family, and friends as well. All right. So the last thing I want to touch on before we close this week's podcast was talking about the NHL's latest proposal for when they restart back up the season. Which, Matt, I'll let you start on this
okay.
and give your thoughts
Okay.
on
I,
it.
I believe this is stupid, this NHL playoff thing. I have an article here. I'm looking right now at TSN up in Canada's website. They have this article up. And basically, what they're proposed is, again, not going to happen. It's proposed that there's going to be a 24 team playoff, 12 in each conference. And then the first round, technically, is a play in round. So you would have, as of now, from the standings, you would have a 5 seed Pittsburgh versus 12 Montreal, 6 Carolina versus 11 New York Rangers, 7 Islanders versus 10 Florida Panthers, 8 the Maple Leafs from Toronto versus 9 Blue Jackets. And then the winners of each of those, so the winner of Pitt and Montreal will face, I guess, I don't know if they're going to reseed, but so presumably Pitt Montreal goes to face Philly, Carolina Rangers faces Washington in the official first round. Islanders Florida against Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Blue Jackets against Boston, the number 1 seed. Um, Let me write this in a K. I think that's what would be going, how that would start. So pretty much read here, the top 12 teams for each conference based on points percentage will play on, with the top 4 in the East and West, regardless of division, each receiving a bye to the actual playoff portion. Those top 4 teams will play each other in a 3-game round robin. It remains unclear how exactly the round robin formula would work, but the belief is those games will not simply be warm-up exhibitions. They could provide opportunity for those 4 teams to change their seeding. Well, that round robin is happening. The remaining 8 teams will square off in a best-of-5 play-in series. Okay, so it's not one. Okay, I thought it was a one-off. As a Marine, I was like, that's stupid. The winner of those play-in series would determine the 16 playoff teams that would be bracketed to start the chase for the Stanley Cup. So that was what I said was the East. On the West, you would have the buys would be in order of seed from 1 to 4: St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas, and the playoff play-in round would be 5 Edmonton versus 12 Chicago, 6 Nashville versus 11 Arizona, 7 Vancouver versus 10 Minnesota, 8 Calgary versus 9 Winnipeg. So that's basically the and to go on real quick, that some GMs have expressed privately their frustrations with the system, with some arguing the round should recede. Their argument is that the regular season points accrued by the top team should warrant them the best matchup possible. For instance, if number 12 Montreal beats number 5 Pittsburgh, some GMs feel number 1 Boston should get to face number 12 Montreal instead of the winner of the matchup between 8 and 9. So, yes, I think this is dumb.
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden do we need to expand the playoffs just because the season was short? And it wasn't like this was like halfway through the season. This was like
We were like, there was essentially what, a
4
month,
weeks,
and yeah, like a month,
not even a month.
a month left. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was basically 3 weeks or so
yeah.
to that point. I'm just like, just
Do
put
the
the teams
same.
who are
Do the
put the
same
teams
thing.
who put the teams who are currently in, and just said, hey, like, you guys played what, 80 or 90% of the regular season.
Yeah.
Just based on the circumstances, that's just how we're gonna go.
I mean, the devil's advocate is you have teams that maybe like are point or tied for a playoff looking
Right?
in, but like
Like,
somebody said, you're always going to have somebody that's left out. You always have somebody in the NCAA tournament that's left out. That
right.
in any playoff thing, baseball, wild card, you lose by a game, you're out by a game. Then puts more emphasis on in the regular season that games in the beginning of the season could come back to haunt you later on by points or what have you. So somebody made that argument like you should have won those games before. So I would just do what you normally do. Maybe give them a period of time to like warm up, practice, maybe an exhibition game or so. Something to get them warm up, because you can't go in just cold. Like, what?
Yeah.
Next week, first round starts, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
What? You need conditioning. You
Yeah,
get these players back in.
and some breaking news as far as that. Supposedly the players are currently voting, and we should hear the results of the vote by tomorrow. So
That's
we're gonna find out whether this gets accepted. Hopefully it doesn't, but who knows?
I don't want, because it's not, I don't think it's fair to somehow like just being a homer here. if Pittsburgh loses to Montreal, like 12th seed, that's not in the playoffs. I don't know what they're and like lose best of 5, like they're not even they weren't even sniffing the playoffs. I don't know what their standings were begin and when the season ended, and I can look that up real quick. But anyways, like just why does everything why do you have to like change the whole entire playoffs for like 4 weeks? Like to me, I don't get the logic behind that.
Makes no sense.
Just do what you did, and if teams are left out, they're left out. Like, what are you gonna do? It happened. Like I said, it happens every year. Um, Here, so Montreal, where are you? Let's do. They had at the end of before the season ended, they had 71 points. They were 31 and 31 and 8. Um,
Wow.
Pittsburgh was 40 and 23 and 6 with 86 points. So if you just look at the conference standings, Boston had 100 points. They were first. Tampa Bay, Washington, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. So they were 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. They were 71. They had how many teams? 8 teams from each conference, right? So your 8 teams at the Eastern would be Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, Philly, Pittsburgh, Carolina, Toronto, and I believe the Blue Jackets. So wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it ends there with Islanders being 1 point out, then Rangers, Islanders at 81 point out, then Rangers 79, Florida 78, then Montreal 71. So you're telling me that, and it's possible, like Montreal can just fit 500, not even, well, kind of sniffing a place, like very low chance of making the playoffs before magically is in the playoffs and could upset Pittsburgh if you get a hot string off of this layoff and making it, and Pittsburgh gets eliminated, not even in the first round. Technically, they're playing
stupid. Yeah.
No, this doing how it normally was. It's fine. And if you have to make the first round shorter,
so be it.
Fine. It's okay. But why make it 24? That's stupid. Just put everybody in at that point. Just put everybody in. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. But we shall see how that goes. And on that note, guys, we're going to put a bow on this week's podcast. So Matt, if you got nothing else to add, you can take us over here.
One little quick thing about Corona, real quick side note that hopefully just mostly pertains to the PA. I think it's possible that our governor will announce more counties from red going to yellow, and even some counties going from yellow to green. So that is possible. There's no indication of what counties just yet, so we'll see. I doubt anything around here, maybe. But it's going to be interesting to see. So yeah, we're going to look at that tomorrow and probably talk about that, but wanted to add that in. So with that, again, thanks everybody for watching. That's going to fall. Liking, commenting, and all that, subscribing. We're going to be back next Wednesday for our live reactions for AEW and NXT. I don't think we're going to have a live reaction for Double or Nothing, since I don't think we're going to be home. We're going somewhere else to watch it. So just it's unfeasible for us to do something in a professional manner like this. So we'll have that next Wednesday at 10:15-ish after the shows. The NB show right now is postponed. I have some ideas about that, But that's neither here. That's a discussion for a different time. But as always, we'll be back every Saturday at 3 for our newest episode. And we'll see you next Wednesday.